my wife kills me. Cut my hair. She hates the facial hair. She hates when I grow my hair. So I cut it for you. Love you, hun. So let's get back to business. Fantasy Sports Champ channel. Please subscribe, like below, share with your friends if they want advice on the upcoming fantasy seasons. I'm just recapping on my own fantasy seasons for this year with football and basketball mainly. I don't partake in baseball or hockey anymore. I fell off quite a few years ago. Hard to get back into it when I don't follow as much as other sports. So maybe down in the future, who knows what cards hold in my hand. But I'll try my best to keep in touch with sports and keep in the loop. You know, I still represent Toronto and all the sports teams that Toronto has. So let's get back into it. I'm here to show you my fantasy profile. So in case you think that I am just all talk and got no game, like I said, my advice has been used against me, and a lot of people have won from my advice, hence why this channel is up and running now. So let's dive deep, and I'll take you through what I have on my fantasy profile on Yahoo. You can see right off the bat that I have this rating of 633. I have no idea how it was calculated, so don't ask me. You can see the top level diamond 3 times. I have 11 trophies from 30 teams. It's a good percentage. Yeah, I have a lot of teams, and this year I had 5 in fantasy football on Yahoo. I had 1 in ESPN and 1 NFL, NFL.com. First time trying that platform out. Like I had mentioned before, nothing against ESPN or NFL.com. I'm just so used to Yahoo. One time, or at least one thing that I've noticed with Yahoo is you can drag and drop players on your roster for substitution. You don't have to click send or submit or anything. It's automatically updated in that way. And I think it was NFL.com where I had dragged and dropped, but you have to click save or submit or something like that in order for it to register. Completely left one of my players on the bench who had a great game. Could have won that round in that playoffs, and I lost. So that's just something I have to get used to. No excuses. I know I had to click submit, and I just automatically did not do it by accident. And yeah, I paid the penalty for it. I paid the price. Now I know for the future. You learn. All right, you either win or you learn. So let's get back into where I'm at with my profile. As you can see, you can scroll through all your leagues. You can click on the individual sports that you're part of, and they show you how you've done. So overall, I have this rating of 633, like I said before. Don't ask me how that's calculated. And I got the silver line. I got the silver place or whatever it is. And you can do head-to-head, points base, roto, all kinds of different leagues are incorporated in the Yahoo platform, and it's a great way. There's so many different ways of playing this. That's the best part about it, is that if you hate one way, you can do so many different other ways of playing. So football, here I am. I have 51.8 percentage win rate. You can see my wins and losses over the last couple of years. Losses, it's tough. I think a lot of fantasy comes down to, is your team healthy? You know, a lot of it's you can predict, you can have educated guesses, no matter how great of or how knowledgeable you are about sports, the stats. You can't control how players play, but you can also draft around that, and knowing people's history and past and the way they do play, and you can predict, and you can kind of get an understanding whether they are injury prone or not. So that way you can draft around it, and I think that's great to know. But you never know. Anyone can have a quick turn, twist of the knee, and blow their ACL, and that's happened to so many players. And we'll go over a recap of my teams later on. Right now, I just want to show you my fantasy profile so you can get an understanding of whether what I say has backed my wins and losses. So yeah, there it is, 240 over 223. My percentile is 62nd, so I finished 62% out of my opponents, which I think is good. Third out of 9th is my average, so I'm way above most people when I compete against. My best finish has been first out of 15. I've won 6 trophies out of the 9 teams that I've had. Survival football is basically picking the winner of each week, and I'm not good at those. I gotta think ahead, not for me. And then I've done pro pick'em. I finished above 59% of my opponents. I finished fifth out of 11th. Again, something that I don't. Like, this is just a friendly picking of who's gonna win the fantasy week or fantasy week that for that week, and I just don't do those anymore. So yeah, there is my fantasy football record, and that's going to improve. I hope, if I take my own advice and don't give it out to anybody else. But yeah, that's for football. Let's go over to baseball. This has been a while. I can't remember the last time I had a team. But I have a record of 11 wins, 12 losses, 2 ties. Apparently, it was a head-to-head competition. I didn't win a trophy. I've only had ever one team, I guess. I finished average 4th out of 10. My best place was second. I have 5 trophies and 15. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the top part is the head-to-head. So I've only ever had one team. The other times I've done rotisserie, which is like a year-long capturing the statistics over the year. Over, I can't remember how many categories. I mean, that's what was different. So rotisserie is just an understanding of yearly accumulating stats. And I've averaged 4th out of 10. I've done 15 teams. I've collected 5 trophies. So I've placed fairly well. And my best place has been second out of the 12. That's not so bad, actually, now that I think. But I've never won any leagues. I've finished second. But I've had 5 trophies. So maybe multiple thirds or second place and multiple thirds. I mean, that's great. Maybe I should get back into fantasy baseball. I don't know. Let's move over to hockey. Again, something I've fallen off of. Basketball, I'll save for last because it's something that got me into fantasy to begin with. Oh yeah, overall 54.5% win rate. 64 wins, 53 losses, 5 ties. I finished 3rd place, I guess, twice. 2 trophies there. The 5 teams that I've had. That's for head-to-head. For rotisserie, it's been 66 percentile, which is pretty good. I'm finishing 3rd out of 9th on an average. I have won a league. I've won actually 8 trophies, so I've either placed 1st, 2nd, or 3rd 8 times in any of those combinations out of 13 teams, out of 13 leagues that I played in. And that's well above 50%, and I think that's a great finish if you look at the statistics behind that. Last but not least, basketball. Let's see where I'm at. Oh, yeah. Head to head, 708. Gold. It's pretty good. 57.8% win percentage, 488, 352 losses. Ties. I mean, if you're going to bet against someone, don't bet against me. You know what I'm saying? I got the win column here. 3 times top level diamond, 15 trophies out of 40 teams in head to head. I remember when I first started, I can't remember if it was head to head in my first couple of years that I had played, but I know I got into rotisserie a lot more often because I like the yearly accumulation. You know, the difference between head to head and rotisserie is head to head. Sometimes you pull your opponent, or you may have more games scheduled in that week, so it's kind of an unfair advantage, but it kind of evens out later on. Like, you might have more games than your opponent and you might win because of that reason. So that's why I got into rotisserie, because there's a yearly long accumulating of stats, and that gave a better idea of whether you know more about fantasy sports than your opponents do. But anyways, yeah, you can see my win percentage there. For rotisserie, 58 percentile, 4th out of 10 is my average. I've come first multiple times. I have 13 trophies. So again, any combination of 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, 13 times out of 31 teams. And I've done men's bracket mayhem for college hoops. Again, don't do as much as I used to. Falling off. It's tough to keep track of every single sport. But yeah, fantasy basketball, rotisserie, and head-to-head's where it's at. The league's still going on. I'm in good place in certain leagues, but again, it all comes down to injuries and load management, and we'll go into that later in a couple other videos down in the future. And we'll explain what load management and how that affects load management and injury proneness, how it affects fantasy leagues. And I think everyone's complaining, and I think you got to do your due diligence, be a good manager for your league or for your team in the league, and you gotta keep up to date. You gotta be up to date, and you gotta keep in tune with what's going on in the sports news. You gotta make sure people are in for that game or not. I know there's a lot of people assume that players are playing even though they don't see the GTD. During warm-up, some players might get hurt, or some players who are declared questionable or doubtful might play, or who are probable might not play. So it's very tough. You have to be, you got to dedicate some time to it, but you get used to it after a while. There's lots of platforms that give you updated information about whether players are going to be in for that game or not. And yeah, sometimes it hurts when you're not in tune to it. I've lost a lot of leagues, lost a lot of games, weeks on end because I just simply wasn't paying attention to whether my players were in for that game, and I lost by a couple of numbers in some statistical categories. And yeah, simple fact that if you want to be part of fantasy sports, you got to be involved with the news, and you got to stay updated on the status of players. And so yeah, that's a recap of my fantasy profile. Overall, as you can see, yeah, these are all my teams. You can see the history of it. Here are all the league names and what place I've come in. You can see the trophies I've collected. Yeah, 32 first place trophies, 22 second place, and 15 third place. It feels nice. It's nice to have these little trophies. They don't mean anything, but yeah, whatever. And then you got all these medals to earn from like when you accomplish this little task in each of those leagues. Arbitrary. I think the biggest thing is, did you come in first place or not? And that's what GOAT represents. Anyways, I'm not a GOAT in fantasy sports, but a lot of people are like, hey, you know what? Your advice has helped me start this channel. This is why we're doing this. Subscribe, like, follow, comment below. Hope to help you out in any way possible. You can share your league settings. I can go over it and help you out how to navigate your draft. And more to unfold later on in this channel. Thank you for watching.